Good morning. I just have a few additional comments on Simon Harris's words, but how that's indicative of what's rippling across the political system in Ireland. So not too long ago you had him talk about the idea that it's a myth to equate a rise in crime with a rise in immigrants, asylum seekers, refugees, whatever you want to call them, people from different lands coming into a locality. All you need is one crime there and it disproves his whole argument. Okay, it's not even an argument, he's just making a statement and he's not basing it on anything, because anecdotal evidence, you want to call it that, of people, what people are seeing and hearing with their own senses, what they're taking in from around them, would tell you that crime does increase. Even if you're looking at total percentage numbers, that could swing one way or another depending on the youth, I suppose, of the locality prior to these people arriving. Sure, you could have crimes from immigrants and you could have less crimes in that particular time period from native people, and so while there's crimes committed by immigrants, it doesn't actually push the numbers above what they would commonly be, okay? So you need to be switched on to the clever little tactics they use. So he didn't come out and say that no immigrants cause crimes. He said that there's no link between the arrival of immigrants and a rise in crime. He's saying that that's a myth, okay, or he has been saying that that's a myth. The other day then he started speaking about the societal and cultural issues that are facing people as a result of the influx of these immigrants and the scale on which these people are being brought here. So he's beginning to shift his perspective and he's trying to bring you with him. There's a reason for that. So what he's trying to move away from is just outright shutting these people off and calling them names and extremists. He'll still do it a little bit, but he's trying to claim some of the people who are a little bit sympathetic to what's going on and they are a little bit fed up at what's going on, and so they're listening to alternative voices to the status quo. Simon Harris can't have that. He needs to get an arm around these people and bring them in, okay? It doesn't seem like him being made Taoiseach is done enough. You see Eamon Ryan leaving. You see Leo stepping down. There was murmurs yesterday of perhaps Micheál Martin doing the same, but he appointed a young, fresh-looking Irish man into the deputy position, so they're trying to probably bleed him through. I would imagine what you will see, based on what Simon Harris has now pivoted to, which is from an outright condemnation of people who oppose him to a stance that is, to paraphrase him, let's not speak down or let's not alienate these people, let's just challenge their narratives, okay? Which is an interesting turn of phrase. Instead of saying let's just show people what the truth is and show these people to be deceptive, deceitful and liars, he didn't do that. He just said we need to challenge their narrative. So he hasn't come out and said that what they're saying isn't true. He's saying that our job, the government, those in the Dáil now, as public representatives, is to challenge their narrative. That's not your job. That is 100% not your job. Your job is to gather as much official data as you can and present that to the people through no filter, through no lens, through no rinsing and cleaning it up and doctoring it in a way that is beneficial to the narrative you want to spin, okay? So what he's talking about here is not the truth, but challenging narratives. So he's aware that there is a worldview that's been in place for a while in Ireland. It's deeply entrenched in the soil here, if not in the hearts of people. And there's now a reaction to that. And the reaction, he believes, needs to be shut down and challenged. Not shown to be false, but just challenged. Okay? So what I think is going to happen here, because he's in a rough spot, okay? He is in a position now where, based on the referendum, didn't go their way. Based on the local elections, I would imagine if you clean up the numbers and you count the numbers of votes from people who should be voting, who had voted in it and who only should be voting in in any sort of Irish election. The numbers were not probably favourable for these people. I would imagine they weren't at all. So now, but they still got their seats back, okay, to a large degree. So what he can do now is call a quick election on the hope that there's not enough opposition in numbers who are getting out voting to carry an alternative worldview forward, okay? And he's hoping then to slip into the slipstream of the last local election and win, okay? Because I think the longer he delays the general election, if it goes up to March, more and more people, based on their observations of what's going on around the country, they're going to become ardent opposition to Simon Harris and the worldview that he's promoting. So he could call a quick election. I don't know how that will go. I'd be optimistic enough about that. Or he could delay it and wait and want to see out his whole term, knowing that he's probably not going to get elected in whatever form that the general election takes, whether it's next week or whether it's next March. And he's happy enough with his ego being massaged as the Don Juan, the king for the moment, the Taoiseach, and his ego might not allow him to abdicate to a degree, okay? Now, what I think will be going on in the periphery of this is that you're going to have, like the new deputy of Fianna Fáil, you're going to have younger blood, fresher looking faces. They will change their talking points a little bit, but their intentions and their actions and policies, they will remain the same. They'll dress it up in different colour language and they'll make it seem more palatable, more humane, more caring, more nurturing, and easier to swallow for the regular fool, okay? Myself included, okay? So that's their selling point. I'm not sure if that's going to work for them. You see this so often. What they try and do is generate an opposition from themselves to try and siphon off some of the energy from the grassroots, more organic opposition to the government that's in power now, okay? And I would only say this to you. If you do see these kinds of people coming in, all of a sudden Fianna Fáil are going, you know what, we're going back to our roots. We are the soldiers of destiny on this island of Ireland, and we are going to carry our people by the scruff, and we are going to march ourselves forward into a greater fate and a greater destiny than has been presented to us. Okay? If you see people start to speak like that, all of a sudden, where were they 2 years ago? Still part of the party. Okay? So what are they doing? Either they do believe those sorts of things, in which case you'd question their motives and their Machiavellianness, because they are waiting in the shadows to get into a stronger position in order to enact the policies they always felt and believed anyway, while previously supporting policies that they did not in their hearts believe. So, red flags automatically, okay? If you want to vote for these people, off you go, but just be wary of that, okay? So, I think that's what you're going to see over the next little while, and I'm not sure if that's going to work. I think people have kind of had enough. And I think people are getting close to the point where no longer do they hang on the coattails of politicians and just follow their direction. I think people are starting to get their own voice. Twitter, on all sorts of social media platforms, people are starting to speak, okay? And it's when you hear yourself speak that you really understand how you feel about what you're actually saying. When your thoughts and your words and your actions and your feelings all line up together, that creates a sense of cohesiveness psychologically, and that it's a sense of honesty, that you're being true to yourself, and what you feel, what you see, and what you say, what you put out into the world matches up with what you're taking in from the world, okay? That gives people a feeling of strength. All of a sudden you feel like you have something to say and there's value in what you're saying, okay? So I think that's what you're going to see. And I'm not sure if people are going to follow that anymore. You know, I think you're going to see towns, villages, counties start to consolidate from the ground up now, instead of being told which way they should dictate their territories, okay? So, have a lovely day. And in Clonmel today, at 7 o'clock tonight, there is a community meeting in the Talbot Hotel in Clonmel, 7 o'clock. So if you're around, jump in, have a say, have a listen, have a cup of tea, whatever the case is. Good luck.